This war has disrupted so much, and one of those things is the supply of LNG, which we all use. Oftentimes we don't know that we're using it. What we do know is that it's expensive. What we also know now is that it is in short supply. So let's talk a bit about LNG. First of all, where does it come from? We pull it out from underground. It is a natural gas. Then from there, it is taken and liquefied at a minus 160 degrees centigrade. And then as step number 3, it is now compressed so that its volume becomes less. It is loaded on ships and then exported to whichever country wants to buy it. Now, the countries that are producing many of them are big exporters, but the eye of the storm, the Persian Gulf. And if you see, these orange marks tell you which are the main producers of LNG, Qatar and UAE. And please note this particular fact. From the Straits of Hormuz, 20% of all LNG is exported, and of course Pakistan is dependent on the LNG coming from here. From the Bab al-Mandab, which is the Red Sea route, about 8% of LNG is exported and 8% goes from the Suez Canal. Now, these are the big exporters. USA 28.7%, then Qatar 25.1% that we are dependent on. And of course, then we've got Australia, huge producer, Russia and Malaysia. We are of course dependent on Qatar. Now, let's look at how it is used in countries, including, by the way, Pakistan. Residential commercial usage of LNG is in home heating, cooking fuel, commercial kitchen, centralized water heating, dryers and appliances. Transportation, it's also used, but in Pakistan, we don't use it much for transportation. Industrial use, fertilizer, steel manufacturing, hydrogen, glass and ceramics, and of course in fertilizer also, plus it's used for generating electricity, fuel for other important things. So a huge input for economies of countries, including Pakistan. Now, this is some technical stuff that I'm not going to go into, but what I'll tell you exactly is that we were getting in Pakistan 8 to 9 cargoes a month, which is essentially ships that bring LNG to Pakistan. Currently, from 8 to 9 cargoes, we are down to 2 in March. So that will give you an idea of the kind of shortage that we are looking at. Now, some more interesting information. In Pakistan, sector-wise, this is now, we talk about all gas consumption. Power generation 31%, domestic 25%, fertilizer 24%, and general industry 18%. So essentially, when we start facing shortages, these are the sectors that are going to get hit. So be ready for it. This is what we are looking at. And now finally, I think this is something very important that we all need to know. Because when the supply of gas begins to go down, it is used in fertilizer. So therefore, when shortage of fertilizer affects agricultural productivity, which can lead to higher food prices. And that is the important thing for us. Energy shortage also adds up to inflation and then supply chain stress. Now, here's the important thing. We've had supplies to last us till April. From April to June, this is the critical period because this is where a lot of wheat is being sown and the requirement for increases. So this is the critical period, and which is why it is so important for us, as it is for every other country affected by the war, that this conflict ends soon. As we just explained, Qatar is the third largest LNG producer in the world. The recent strikes on its LNG infrastructure have stopped LNG shipments to its customers, including Pakistan. Now, usually Pakistan receives 8 to 9 shipments of LNG every month. Since the start of the war, we have been able to receive only 2. That's it. So the discontinuation of the LNG supplies from Qatar is expected to continue for the foreseeable future. There is significantly less gas available for everyone in Pakistan. According to reports, The government has now planned load shedding, which may start as early as this month to reduce gas consumption by the power sector. Plus, gas supplies to some fertilizer plants have also been suspended. So, will other industries also be affected? And what about the households? Pakistan finds itself in a very vulnerable position to meet its energy needs. So, what are our options? What can we do? And is the government taking the right steps? Joining me today is Pakistan's former Prime Minister, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi Sahab. Shahid Sahab, welcome to the program. You're also the convener of the Awam Pakistan Party and probably one of the most knowledgeable people on LNG, both as you served as the Petroleum Minister also and of course as the Prime Minister. So, looking at this crisis, how worried are you and how worried should we be?
Congratulations, Fahd Sahab, on the relaunch of Express 247, and I am very optimistic. It will be, inshallah, it's a much needed venture, and I wish you the best. It's a privilege to be here on the first day. We should be worried. It's a very serious challenge, and it's a global challenge. It's not just Pakistan. As far as LNG is concerned, the LNG supply chain was created in 2014-2015, and it's been a very successful initiative by the government at that time. And we managed to create a supply chain with zero investment by the government. And we also, even if you look at the numbers today, Pakistan gets its LNG cheaper than the three biggest users in the world, Japan, Korea and Taiwan. Our LNG per MMBTU is cheaper than these three countries.
Is that because we negotiated better?
We negotiated better. The supply chain was set up. Our terminals are the cheapest in the world. We have two terminals. The rates are the cheapest in the world. So, it's been successful in that way. But unfortunately, we could not manage to create a market for LNG. So, while we covered the consumption at that time, which was online, we could not create a market, despite the fact that LNG sells for about 20 to 30% cheaper than LPG in Pakistan. LPG consumption in Pakistan has gone up about 6 to 9 times during this period. So that's the failure of the people who sell LNG or price LNG. We've added on taxation to LNG, that made LNG unviable. Pakistan has 4 of the most efficient power plants in the world. They run on LNG, but they're not producing power today because the way we price LNG.
So that's a failure at so many levels. But now with this war and this disruption in the supply of LNG, what could be impacted most? The commercial side, the households, and if, for example, the war lasts for like a longer period and the disruption continues, how could life be disrupted in terms of the energy consumption?
There will be some effect, but paradoxically, this is actually a positive for Pakistan.
How's that?
Because this year, the government's biggest problem was, which they have said many times on TV, on how to get rid of 15 to 30 cargoes they were talking about. That Pakistan does not need these cargoes. What do we do with these cargoes? Because the way the LNG contracts are worked, it is not just Pakistan, the whole world. If you do not take a cargo, then that cargo is sold in the market. If there is a profit, the producer keeps it. If there is a loss, that goes to the account of the buyer. So now Pakistan was looking at diverting between 15 and 30 cargoes. I don't have the exact number at the moment, but it is a large number of cargoes. Now that problem has gone away. Now your problem is, how do you manage to create the shortfall, which is not a huge shortfall in my opinion, especially in the summer. How to manage that shortfall? You have to go to the market. The LNG prices will be very high. And I'll just give you a comparison. During the Ukraine war, we were getting LNG cargoes at $40 million per cargo. The same cargo from the same producer, Qatar, was selling for $140 million in Europe.
That's 3 times.
This is $100 million per cargo differential. So today you'll have to pay a premium for whatever additional LNG you use.
But I think keeping that in mind, Shahid Saab, the government is also trying to suppress demand, and which is why so many measures are being taken in terms of work from home and etc. etc. So in this difficult situation, now I'm going to zoom out of the LNG issue and look at the bigger problem right now. The government is trying to manage a situation which it has zero control over in terms of the disruption of oil. Now, by opting for measures which would reduce demand for energy, including fuel, they're considering so many other things. It's a difficult situation for any government. Do you think there are better options that any government could have taken, or giving subsidy to the consumers and promoting measures like less use of petrol, conservation of energy? These are all the cards that the government has, and that's pretty much it.
It's too late to do that. We are in a crisis mode today. When you're in a crisis, you cannot really find solutions. These are longer term solutions. So today is a price issue. There's no shortage of fuel at the moment. Petrol, diesel, LPG.
Yeah.
But it's a price issue. You cannot sell fuel below cost. Nobody in the world can.
Right.
It's just the numbers are too high. Even the producers do not sell any product below cost. We have also added on very high numbers of what we call PDL, which is federal tax on fuel. Now that's an IMF requirement. You cannot reduce it. In fact, they want you to increase it. So the consumer will have to bear this burden. The government can target segments of the consumers, but again, it will take a lot of money. The government had a windfall with the first price increase, which the consumer paid for. So you can use that windfall to provide some level of subsidy.
And now the provinces have also agreed, Shah Saab, to share the burden for subsidy. So that might help the federal government.
Yeah. So let's say how much will they give? It's all a question of how much can you give and how do you give it to the consumer. The real issue is the way we price our fuel. We need to deregulate our fuel pricing. The way the government prices it does not work. You must have heard that the Prime Minister rejected the summary. I read that in the papers. Now the Prime Minister has no basis to reject any summary, because there is a formula according to which OGRA determines the price. They send a summary to the Petroleum Ministry, we send to the Finance Ministry, from there it goes to the Prime Minister's Secretariat. If you reject it, you are negating the whole price formula that your own government has. So today, if you really want to do something, deregulate fuel pricing. There is already a cabinet decision from 2018 to deregulate fuel pricing in Pakistan. At that time, the Petroleum Ministry said that we need a 6-month period to implement it, but they never implemented it. So this is the time to implement it.
Which also means that it is an opportunity to take so many steps that we could have taken earlier also, including, Shah Saab, what I personally can't understand is that why do we have to go for austerity measures when the crisis hits?
Yes.
Like, for example, they're saying, okay, we should reduce the usage of cars by government officials and usage of petrol. Well, I mean, if you can manage in a crisis situation, you can also manage in normal times.
Yeah.
So why do we have to go back to this extravagant way of living? But somehow our governments don't learn.
No, our governments never learn. In this government, the salaries of the lawmakers, the members of parliament, members of the provincial assemblies, have more than tripled. We just bought 110 million rupee vehicles for judges. Land cruisers, imported vehicles in dollars, we bought them. We have we've created so much of fat in the whole government. If you look at the spending of government, during this government is almost tripled. We have never done anything about it. When we hit the crisis board, we say, oh, we'll give a 20% cut in salaries, we'll not give people vehicles. What will they do? If they have to, officer has to drive somewhere, what will he do?
This is, stop treating governance as business as usual. That's a big thing. Shah Sahab, finally, before we leave, there's a major crisis in the aviation industry also because of the prices of jet fuels. And that's hitting people directly because air travel has become so expensive. What do you see happening on that front? Will there be some major disruption on a long-term basis, or this is just like a short-term crisis and it will be over?
It all depends on, it's a supply and demand issue. In Pakistan, no airline can subsidize anything. So they have to pass on the fuel cost. Fuel cost today, I would say, is over 50% of the operation. That's not a sustainable situation. Whenever fuel cost goes beyond 35%, airlines of operating cost, airlines become under stress. Today, it's over 50%. So they have to pass it on. In the long term, with pricing goes down, things equalize, things become manageable. But in Pakistan, the aviation industry, the government really needs to look at what they are doing to the aviation industry. The taxation of the aviation industry, the way the regulator works, all these things add cost which is not imposed on your competitors from other countries. So if let's say Emirates is not paying 17% GST on its lease cost or its operating cost, then how can the Pakistani airlines sustain themselves? And now when PIA is going into private hands, so the new owners are really now kind of confused by this. They're shouting because now they see that they will end up with losing billions of rupees every month that they come into, they take over PIA.
So in any case, I think the bottom line is, and I think we all agree to it, that business as usual can't continue. Our governments really have to learn lessons from some such crises.
You have to radically reform yourself. Yes. Radical reform is what Pakistan needs. That's what the government needs to learn.
Absolutely. Shahid Bhai Sahab, thank you so much for joining. That's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.